System 1, Systems Thinking, Chapter 1, Think Like an Architect, the Foundations of a Systemic Approach. Starting with systems thinking is no coincidence. It's the bedrock of the entire success operating system. Because what is a system? It's not chaos. It's not randomness. It's structure. And real success never starts with emotion, inspiration, or even a plan. It starts with a way of thinking. If you want to build something great, a life, a business, influence, or lasting wealth, you need to think not like an impulsive doer, but like an architect. Millionaires don't think like soldiers. They think like architects. This is one of the first distinctions I noticed while working with people who had built both capital and freedom. They don't make decisions based on how they feel in the moment. Their thinking is constructive, logical, strategic. They're not running around plugging leaks. They ask themselves, what does the full system look like? Where is the weakest link? What needs to change in the logic, not just the action? How can I scale this without my daily involvement? That's the mind of an architect, not an executor. And that's why they don't just build projects. They build lives. What is systems thinking? It's the ability to see connections, not just isolated events. It's the ability to go beyond symptoms and find the root cause. It's the ability to design models that are scalable and replicable. Imagine you're building a house. If you think like most people, you just order fancy furniture and hope everything somehow comes together. But if you think systemically, you ask, will the foundation hold? Are the utilities properly installed? How does ventilation work when the windows are closed? How will this structure function 10 years from now? That's the difference. Successful people build life structures with ventilation, foundations, balance, and energy efficiency. The rest? They patch the walls daily as the wind breaks them down. How to apply systems thinking to your own life. 1. See your life as an architectural project, not as a chain of random events, not as whatever happens, happens, but as a design, made of distinct building blocks: health, money, relationships, self-realization. Each block is part of the bigger structure. If one is weak, the whole thing is unstable. Write it down. What are the components of your life as a system? Then ask yourself, which ones function independently and which ones depend solely on your energy and attention? 2. Identify recurring patterns. Systems thinking doesn't chase exceptions. It identifies repeatable patterns. What situations show up in your life year after year? What mistakes do you keep repeating in relationships, finances, or decisions like, should I or shouldn't I? Don't just fix the latest failure. Find the pattern, then redesign it. 3. Stop solving problems. Start building systems. Without systems thinking, people react to every small issue. Fire, put it out, overload, work late, crisis, drop everything and pivot. But the architect asks, why did this fire happen in the first place? What system must I build to ensure this never happens again? Examples: always short on money? Don't hunt for side gigs. Build a financial system. Struggling with time? Don't buy another planner. Build a priority system. Never have time for yourself? Build a resource recovery system. I learned this the hard way, but I learned it for good. My breakthrough came when I stopped being the everyday hero and started becoming a systems builder. I stopped fixing problems. I started building structures. And that changed everything, from my energy to my income, from my results to my inner peace. It's not easier, it's just smarter. Summary: to think like an architect means seeing the big picture, building with logic, and creating something that lasts decades. In this chapter, we laid the foundation, the real one, not a decorative one. Now you know, success is not a reaction, it's a construction. Systems thinking is the ability to build, scale, protect, and strengthen. Millionaires don't just respond, they design. They don't survive, they architect. How to replace emotional decisions with structural ones. There's a saying, if you make decisions in a highly emotional state, you'll regret them. But if you make no decisions at all, you'll regret it even more. And in real life, most people get stuck in that triangle. They're either overly emotional or completely paralyzed. In the previous chapter, we talked about thinking like an architect. But even the best architect can't build a skyscraper if every 5 minutes someone in a panic yells, "Let's redo everything." I changed my mind. What if it doesn't work out? Emotions without structure equals chaos. Structure without flexibility equals glass that will shatter. We need to master a new type of decision-making. Structural. It's not against emotions, it's above them. Why do we act emotionally? Because we were trained that way. We were taught, follow your heart. Do what feels right. Your intuition won't lie to you. But here's the paradox. The millionaires I've worked with never make decisions about business, money, or strategy based on impulse. On the contrary, they first build a decision-making structure and only then consult their heart. And only when that structure says yes, they allow emotions to energize that yes. What is a structural decision? It's not what I feel right now. It's what thinking model will lead me to a stable and desirable outcome. Here's a simple structure. 1. What do I want to achieve in the long term? 2. Will this decision bring me closer to that goal? 3. What's the worst case scenario if I'm wrong? 4. What's the best case scenario if I'm right? What strategy can minimize the risk and increase the chance of success? It won't take more than 5 minutes, but it can save you from decisions you'd regret for years. How to build your anti-emotion structure? 1. Identify the areas where you act most impulsively. We all have an emotional Achilles heel. For some, it's relationships. For others, shopping. For some, reacting to criticism, anger, or fear. My personal weak spot was making decisions out of fear of missing an opportunity. And I trained myself to ask, is this fear or strategy? In your case, it might be something different. The key is to notice it, because you can't improve what you don't acknowledge. 2. Replace the trigger with 3 steps. Next time you feel a strong emotion, hit pause and do this. 1. Name the emotion. I'm angry, I'm scared, I'm disappointed. 2. Ask, what exactly triggered me? Why am I reacting this way? 3. Return to the goal. Will this action help me get what I truly want? It may sound simple, but it changes everything because you stop reacting, you start leading. Personal story, how I lost $10,000 due to emotion and saved $100,000 thanks to structure. One of the most painful lessons of my life happened when I invested in a project purely based on emotions. But he's my friend. Everyone else already invested. If I don't do it now, I'll miss out. My gut warned me, but I had no structure to verify anything, only raw emotion. I lost $10,000, no way to get it back. A year later, another opportunity came along, but this time, I acted differently. I outlined a clear model, checked all the variables, set a firm plan. And guess what? I walked away. 6 months later, the project collapsed, taking $100,000 of emotional investors down with it. Structure doesn't just save you money, it protects your power. Conclusion: you are not your emotions. You are the architect of your logic. Replacing emotional decisions with structural ones isn't about losing yourself. It's about reclaiming your authority. It's about building a system that functions, even when you're exhausted, vulnerable, or on edge, because your emotions deserve to be heard. But your decisions must serve your purpose, not your fear. Systems create results, not motivation. You've probably told yourself more than once, this time I'll finally pull it together. This time I'll change my life. Just a little more motivation, and I'll begin. But what happens next? Motivation fades like morning mist. Plans fall apart, promises to yourself vanish the moment emotional energy wears off. I know that feeling. I've been there. And I discovered one simple but radically honest truth. Motivation doesn't create results. Systems do. Motivation is a spark. A system is an engine. Think about it. Motivation is an unreliable energy source. It depends on the weather, your mood, hormones, a comment on social media, or how much sleep you got last night. Now imagine your goal is a rocket. Will it ever launch if you just keep hoping for good weather? Real achievements aren't built on hope. They're built on systems. What is a system? A system is a repeatable, predictable action model that doesn't depend on how you feel, but is guided by what you want. For example, not, I'll try to read more, but 30 minutes of reading every morning after coffee. Not, I'll start investing, but every Friday at 10 a.m., I analyze the market and invest $10. Not, I want to be productive, but 50 minutes of work, 10 minutes break, 5 sessions per day. That's not hope. That's an algorithm. And every algorithm is just a program. It either works or it doesn't. If it works, the result is inevitable. Why millionaires don't rely on motivation? Because they know motivation is like a hot bath. It feels good, but it cools off fast. A system, on the other hand, is a water supply, consistent, stable, and independent of your mood. Every successful entrepreneur I've worked with has simple, non-negotiable routines. Meetings at 8 a.m., always, even on Sundays. Weekly expense reviews, no exceptions. 90-day focus goals, with zero improvisation. No one feels inspired to do it. They're not burning with passion every morning. They just run the system, the same way you brush your teeth without asking, "Am I in the mood for this today?" How to build a system that works. Over the years, I developed this formula and share it with everyone seeking real change and sustainable progress. 1. Simplify to the extreme. If it's too complex, you won't stick with it. It's better to read 5 pages a day than 50 pages once a month. 2. Anchor it to an existing ritual. Morning coffee? Right after. Plan your day. Commute to work? Listen to a self-growth podcast. 3. Define the trigger. You don't need willpower, you need a launch button. When I wake up, I do 10 squats. When I sit at my desk, I open my task list. 4. Make it irreversible. Tell someone. Put it in your calendar. Set reminders. Change your environment so it's harder not to do it than to do it. Personal story, how I built a system where I used to always fail. There was a time I couldn't make myself write regularly. I kept waiting for inspiration, a good mood, or some free time. Years passed, and my book lived only in my head, until I created a simple system. 7 a.m., wake up, no phone. 7:10 a.m., coffee, instrumental music, open laptop. 7:15 a.m., set a 45-minute timer. Write, no editing, no breaks. It wasn't an explosion of productivity. It was a quiet revolution. In 90 days, I had 80% of my book. In 6 months, I published a bestseller. Not because of motivation, because of a system. Conclusion, if you want results, forget about motivation. The real secret of millionaires is in their systems, not superpowers, not inspiration, just a model they follow, one that brings results on autopilot. Motivation is great when it's there, but a system guarantees the outcome, even when it's not.